Happy draft day, Who Dat Nation. It is finally here. But before the picks are made official, I want to get my final mock draft in. It's going to be 7 rounds, and there's a couple of trades that do happen in this mock draft. Basically, I hopped in the PFF mock draft simulator, went through all the picks, and this is exactly what I would do / kind of what I'm predicting the Saints are going to do here on draft day. But I encourage you to join us today, Thursday at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. We're going to be live breaking down the first round of the NFL draft, me and producer Patrick Seatman. We're going to be going back and forth with a lot of battles, a lot of fun with his Vikings channel. I encourage you to come hang out. That way you can get the best draft coverage across the internet for the New Orleans Saints. But let's kick this thing off without further ado. We got some picks to make, and it's round 1, number 14 overall. Not trading up, not trading back. I'm staying put at number 14 overall. And I went with the offensive tackle out of Oregon State, Taliese Fuaga, who I believe could be a very, very good fit on the New Orleans Saints offensive line. In this particular mock draft, Olu Fashanu, Joe Alt, those top 2 guys were taken. So for me, it was between Fuaga and Fontenot. I went with Fuaga just because I want somebody who is truly a tackle to fill in at those tackle positions, because I think that you have to draft an offensive lineman in round 1, specifically an offensive tackle. Now, with James Hurst retiring, that does fill the need for an interior offensive lineman as well. But I do think that the Saints can get some interior guys later in the draft. Hint, there's one coming later. And I think that in round 1, you go offensive line. Unless Brock Bowers is there and all of the top offensive tackles are off the board. Then you can go and have some fun, grab your really fun, shiny new toy in Bowers, get the tight end out of Georgia, and then address offensive line in round 2. But those first 2 rounds got to be offensive line. But in round 2, since I already took care of the trenches, I went with the big-bodied man, Xavier Leggette, the wide receiver out of South Carolina. I'm not sure how, but he managed to fall all the way to 45 in this mock draft for me. I really, really like this fit for the New Orleans Saints because I think that he is a talented kind of guy, and I think that he is a really fun player. And quite frankly, New Orleans needs an X receiver. They need somebody who's big, who can play over the middle, who can dominate at the point of catch, and can make you get some extra yards after catch. Leggette, he isn't as great after the catch as a Malachi Corley, but I think he exactly fills what you need him to be and what role you're missing due to Michael Thomas leaving in free agency earlier in the offseason. But trade alert! Wee-woo, wee-woo, wee-woo! The Saints have moved up into the 4th round. I tried to get up into the 3rd. I figured the capital was going to be a little too much for me in terms of trying to get a good player, trying to keep some, good return, or keep some of my draft picks so I could get some players later on and, get that pick in return for the 4th round. And I'm going to tell you what that pick is here in just a second, but let me know. Would you rather trade up into round 3 or round 4? Now, there's pros and cons of each. You go up to round 3, you're going to have to give up a lot more in terms of draft capital, but you can get a better player. Or you can try and go up into round 4. You get an extra day to kind of prep and figure out who you want to draft. You can be at the top of day 3. You don't have to give up as much in terms of draft capital. And for me, I went with trading up in round 4, and here is the mock draft trade that I made. So the Chargers, it was a trade with them, and this looks like a lot of capital at first, but I'm getting the number 110 overall selection, and I'm sending away a couple comp picks and then a future 4th round selection. I do think that you're going to be able to possibly get some comp picks back by letting some players leave in free agency next offseason, and you may be able to get some extra stuff in terms of trades. I'm not really worried about next year. I'm worried about right now and fixing the things in my roster to get on the right track now. But to be honest, I'm in love with this player. I love Bralen Trice. That's why I went with him in round 4 at that selection, because you can get a really nice edge rusher who does need a little bit of work, but can be a really nice insurance blanket behind Cameron Jordan just in case Isaiah Foskey doesn't pan out or does have injury issues. Now, in terms of the defensive line, I think the Saints need to get a lot younger. And Trice can be your Cam Jordan replacement. You already have Carl Granderson and you have Chase Young. Those are your two starting defensive ends. But I'm not necessarily sold on the fact that Chase Young is going to be around in a couple of seasons. I think that adding Bralen Trice, just to let him kind of be in the mix, be a backup, learn from some of these veterans, get a few meaningful reps, even some special teams reps, just so he can get the feel of the game too. Then he can be a prime time great pass rusher here in a couple of seasons. I think that this would be a solid move for the New Orleans Saints. And coming up here, I got another trade that the New Orleans Saints are going to be making on draft night here in my mock draft. But before we get to those last few picks and that trade, we got to give a special shout out to Game Time for sponsoring today's video. If you guys want to get tickets to any New Orleans Pelicans playoff games, some Saints football games next year, any sort of LSU games, whether it's football, baseball, anything like that, you need to go to Game Time and download the app and use our code CHATSPORTS to get $20 off. Now, they don't just have sporting events. They also have comedy shows. They have concerts. Any sort of live events, they got you covered. I already took my girlfriend to go see the Red Clay Strays, and here in a few months, we're going to go see Zach Bryan here in Dallas. But I got my tickets with Game Time, and I was able to save a few bucks when I plugged in that promo code CHATSPORTS. That's code CHATSPORTS to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account when you download the Game Time app and use our promo code. It's going to pop up right here on the app. Just use the redeem code section, CHATSPORTS. That's CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Our link or our code will let Game Time know that we sent you. It'll also help you out. Maybe even get you a free beer or something at your game. But let's get back to the mock draft. In round 5 at number 150 overall, I went with Maason Smith, the defensive tackle out of LSU. I mean, he is the definition of a boomer bust type of player. With such high regards and so highly recruited coming out of high school, he was a 5-star player, and he was a guy that the Saints could really, really use alongside Bryan Bresee. With Colin Saunders and Nathan Shepard being in the mix, I don't think that this is a bad selection at all, because you can coach this player up who has really nice attributes and who has really nice abilities, but you can let him wait until he can hone those abilities and be more productive on the field. But let's get back to that trade, because after this 5th round selection, I said, you know what? I don't really need a pick in the 6th round this year. I kind of want to get an extra 5th round selection. Let's just hone out this team, and let's get some nice talent here early in day 3, or in the middle of day 3, if you will. So I sent the Kansas City Chiefs the 199th overall pick, which you got from the trade with the Eagles. And then I also sent them a future 6th round pick, just because I don't really need a future 6th round pick. I want to pick right now. And I'm going to tell you what I used that 5th round selection, that extra pick here in the 5th round here in just a moment. But if you're pumped up for the draft, like the video. I know that a lot of Saints fans are kind of have a grim feeling, or they're not excited about this offseason. They're kind of down on the team right now, but this is the chance for the Saints to get better and to fill some holes on the roster and to build for the future in the right now. So if you want to help the Saints have a better draft, and if you're pumped up, hit that thumbs up icon, like the video. So here's the next selection at round 5, number 170 overall. I went with Kitan Oladapo. He's a safety out of Oregon State who has a lot of versatility. He can play in the box. He can play in the slot. He can play deep. This is a player with really high upside. He has a high motor. And I think that with proper coaching, you can, take that very, very nice straight line speed and help him develop into a better player overall, and help him be a better fit for the Saints, or not fit for the Saints, but a better tool and a better player for the New Orleans Saints. And in round 5 at 173, I had to get a little selfish with this one. And James Hurst did retire, so it does make a little bit of sense. Had he even not, I still would have gone into your offensive line. I went with Beaux Limmer. He played center this past year for the Razorbacks, but in 2022 and in 2021, he has plenty of snaps at left guard and at the guard position. I think that he could be a really good fit with the Saints. He's athletic, he's really talented, and to be honest, he is a guy who I think a lot of people are sleeping on. I'm not just saying that as a Razorback alumni. I'm also saying that because I believe that he could be a really good fit in New Orleans. I think that he could be or address a massive position of need because you only have 3 offensive linemen on the interior right now on the depth chart. So big time need here for me. That's why I went with Beaux Limmer. And my last pick of this draft, I went with the running back out of New Hampshire, Dylan Laube. The Saints have met with him in the pre-draft process. They've shown some interest in the player. And if you don't know anything about him, he is a dual threat maniac. He is so damn talented. And he is a player who I think Clint Kubiak could recreate a little bit of Christian McCaffrey with. I mean, he is honestly probably the best receiving back in this draft class, and I think that he could be a really fun player to have in New Orleans, a really exciting weapon. You know, obviously Alvin Kamara is getting a little bit older. Jamal Williams, I think he's a good player to kind of have, you know, be your boom, if you will, and Kendra Miller can kind of do it all, but why not bring in another young weapon into the depth chart? So here is my final mock draft. I would have liked to go one more offensive lineman, to be honest. However, I really think that this is a good group. Kitan Oladapo also has a ton of experience playing in Oregon State. I mean, he has played a lot of snaps, so I think that he could be a good fit for the Saints defense who does come in with some experience. I like Xavier Leggette. I really like Bralen Trice. Beaux Limmer, it's Woo Pig always. But my favorite pick might be Dylan Laube in the 5th round. So grade this mock draft for me, A, B, C, D, or F in the comment section. And as always, Saints fans, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Early on this draft day, we will be live today at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. That way you can find out who the New Orleans Saints are drafting. That way you can have some fun watching the NFL draft. And that way we can break it all down for you. So I encourage you to subscribe one more time. Do not miss out. This is the thumbnail for the live show. We'll see you guys later. Y'all stay golden.